Hello and welcome to the Ellen Made Book Club. Today I want to wrap up some of the reading challenges that I have been participating in 2025. I have done a couple of check-in videos throughout the year, so I won't mention books that I have already talked about in those videos. I will leave links to those in the description if you want to follow along on this journey of mine. But in this video, I just want to wrap up the challenges that I have participated in and let you know which books I read for each of the prompts. I'm not going to do any in-depth reviews in this video, but I will leave a little star rating graphic in the corner of the video so that you can see what I thought about the books. So starting off with the Classic 6 challenge. This is a challenge to read 6 classics throughout the year, and it's hosted by Suey at Suey's Book Banter. And this is the challenge that I failed the most at. I read And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie pretty early in the year, and then I didn't read any more classics at all. I had a bunch of them picked out, and some I was kind of excited to read, but a lot of them I think felt more like books that I should read or just books that I happen to have, and so I put them on that TBR for that challenge. And I didn't necessarily pick books that I was super excited to read, which was my mistake, and I will do better next year and pick books that I'm genuinely excited to read. And if I don't reach 6 books next year either, I won't be too mad, but like anything better than 1, I'm gonna be happy with. So yes, starting off with a bit of a fail, but that means we can only go up from here. So moving on to the Climathon 2025, which was created by Tasmin at Tasmin 2. This is a challenge to read books about the climate and nature and the environment and things that are connected to that. And it has 12 prompts, and since all of these things are more or less connected, I decided to give myself a break with this one because I didn't do very well last year, so I figured this year I should be a little bit like lenient with myself and like just encourage reading anything that was relating to this topic. And so I have doubled up on these prompts and counted the books that I have read on several prompts because they all sort of go together, and it's all I just put them all there for all of the things that they match, kind of. So all in all, I have read and counted 5 books for this challenge. The first one is Crooked Seeds by Jennings, which is set in South Africa in like a couple of years in the future, and it does deal with a situation where water is very scarce, like there's a drought and people have to sort of stand in line to get their water for the day. So I think that's definitely connected to climate change and the environment. I also read We Will Be Jaguars by Nemonte Nenquimo, which is a memoir by an indigenous woman in Ecuador in South America, and she has sort of led the fight against big oil companies in that region. I'm not going to do any in-depth reviews, but this is one that I would highly recommend. I also read Oil on Water by Helon Habila, which is set in Nigeria in Africa. The title says a lot. It's about the oil industry in the Niger Delta and the effects it has on the environment and the people who live there. I also read Endling by Maria Riva, which was a new release this year and has been nominated for the Booker Prize. That is set in Ukraine, in Europe, and touches on a lot of different things, but among those things, endangered species, which, is an environmental issue. And then finally, I read The Serviceberry by Robin Wall Kimmerer, and this is a short little nonfiction book about the economy of nature and how we can apply that in our societal economy and take a little bit better care of our planet. So all in all, I would consider this challenge a success. I didn't read 12 books, but I think I hit all of the prompts more or less. I think the one that was most difficult for me was food. It doesn't really interest me to read about food or food production, and so that one was a little bit tricky for me to fulfill, but I ended up counting The Serviceberry for that one, even though it doesn't really center food, but food is an aspect of this, and like how we receive food as gifts from Earth, like from stuff that grows, and how we can make better use of that and be more grateful for that and show a bit more gratitude for the gifts that nature gives us, and also like give back to nature by treating it well. Other than that, I think the books fit the prompts very well, and I'm glad I did this challenge. I learned some new things, and reading these kinds of books helped keep climate and the environment a little bit more top of mind, which I think is the main purpose of the challenge, and of course to like influence our behavior and decisions that we make in our real life. So yeah, I'm definitely glad I did this challenge this year. I don't know if there's going to be a challenge for next year, but I think I'm going to sit that one out if there is one. I decided to add a climate prompt to the diversity book bingo for next year, but I just feel like it's a bit overwhelming to do all of these challenges at once. So I'm going to focus on diversity book bingo next year, and hopefully still have some of the, you know, climate and environmental issues within other books that I read, but I will at least read one and be happy with that, and I'm happy with the books that I've read this year. My favorite book from this year's challenge was definitely We Will Be Jaguars by Nemonte Nenquimo. It's a fantastic memoir and one that I would highly recommend. Let's move on to the Savidge Prompts, which are hosted by Simon at Savidge Reads and Louise at Louise Savidge Muses. This is a challenge with 12 prompts that have been suggested by their viewers and subscribers, and then they pulled out of a bowl, and these are the prompts that they got. So this was a really fun challenge, and there were definitely a couple of prompts that were more challenging than others. In my last check-in video, I had 5 more prompts to fulfill, so let's see how I did. For January, the prompt was to read a book with twin main characters, and this is a prompt that I really struggled with. Finally, I decided to read Swamp Thing, Twin Branches, I think it's called, by Maggie Stiefvater. This is a quick little graphic novel, and that did the trick. The prompt for April was to read a book with a sound in the title, and this was another prompt that I really struggled with and had a really hard time finding a book for. In the end, I read Women Talking by Miriam Taves, because women talking is a sound that you can hear, so I think that counts, and a couple of you said in the comments that of course it would count, so thank you for that. And then I had the prompts for October, November and December left to read, and for October the prompt was to read a book that has been on your TBR for a long time. So for this I picked Oil on Water by Helon Habila. I bought this secondhand like almost 2 years ago, I think, or like a year and a half. So I figured that was a long time ago. It's a book that I have been wanting to read ever since and haven't. So I'm glad I finally did. And yeah, it fits for this prompt. The prompt for November was to read a book centered about a secret. And I had another book picked out. I wanted to read We Don't Talk About Carol by Kristen L. Berry for this, but I don't have access to it yet. I have requested my library to purchase it, and I think that they have, but it's like it hasn't arrived yet. So I figured I should read something else. The one that I chose to read was Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. I think this is volume 3 or 4, and so I won't get into what the secret is, but there is definitely a secret at the center of this volume, so I think it counts for this prompt. And then the prompt for December was to read a book with your favorite animal on the cover, and for this I picked a book with a cat on the cover, and it's not really very easy to see, but in the corner in the dark there is a little black cat, and the book is So Witches We Became by Jill Baguchinsky. This is a young adult horror, and yeah, there's a cat on the cover, so it counts. This means I completed the Savidge Prompt Challenge, and yeah, feeling very good about that. My favorite books out of the ones that I read for this challenge was Pet by Catherine Chidgey and Women Talking by Miriam Taves. I also did the Read Good challenge by Ben at Ben Reads Good, and for this challenge I had 2 prompts left in my last check-in. I had the prompt October, which was for October, and it was to read a book with an ugly cover. And I had a few options for this one, but I ended up counting Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk for this prompt. I think there is some charm to this cover, and it's like the one that I like the best out of the covers that I have seen, but all of the covers that I have seen for this book have been really ugly. Like, I don't like any of them. There should be better book covers for this book, I think, because it is a cult classic and it's an interesting book that I didn't really enjoy, but that I'm still very glad I read. But yeah, anyway, I don't like this cover, and so it counts for this prompt. And then the prompt for December was Decembros, so to read a book about brothers or brotherhood. And this was a prompt that I struggled to find books for at first, or like I didn't like this prompt, but I really liked the book that I read for this prompt, and that was The Book of Guilt by Catherine Chidgey. This book follows three triplets who are brothers, and so it definitely counts for this prompt. And the book was one of the favorite books that I read for this challenge, but there are a lot of books that I really loved on this challenge, or like that I counted for this challenge. Disability, Visibility, Nesting, We Will Be Jaguars, Crooked Plow, and The Compound were all really great reads. And then I also participated in the Buzzword challenges, the title and the cover ones. So starting with the title challenge, I had 4 spots left to fill. The prompt for May was to read a book with 2 or 2 in the title, so T with 1 O or 2 O's. And for this I read No Friend to This House by Natalie Haynes, which is a Greek mythology retelling. The prompt for September was to read a book with an event in the title, and for this one I had originally planned to read The Appeal by Janice Hallett, and then I had some other options, and then I sort of went in another direction and had other options picked out, but then in the end I did read The Appeal by Janice Hallett, and I'm really glad I did. I really enjoyed that book, and yeah, it fulfilled this prompt perfectly. The prompt for October was to read a book with a violent word in the title, and for this one I counted Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk. And then the final prompt that I had left to fulfill was to read a book with the word never in the title, and I struggled for a while to find a book that I was excited to read for this prompt, but I have started and I'm sort of halfway through at the moment, Never the Wind by Francesco Dimitri, which has the word never in the title. So yeah, I'm not really finished with it yet, but I am confident that I will finish this before the end of the year. So I am counting this for the prompt for November. So yeah, assuming that I will finish Never the Wind, I will also have completed this challenge this year. My favorites out of all the books that I have read for this challenge are probably Bunny by Mona Awad, Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield, and The Appeal by Janice Hallett. And then for the Buzzword Cover Challenge, I think I had 5 prompts left to fulfill. The prompt for March was to read a book with books on the cover, and for this one I picked Murder by Memory by Olivia Waite. For April, the prompt was to read a book with an animal on the cover, and I wanted to match my read for the title challenge for April, which was read a book with an animal in the cover, and that was Bunny. And so for this one I picked We Love You Bunny by Mona Awad, which is the sequel to Bunny. The prompt for June was to read a book with something celestial on the cover. So for this one I counted Thornhill by Pam Smythe because it has a moon on the cover, and this is a middle grade horror graphic novel that I really enjoyed. The prompt for November was to read a book with food or drink on the cover, and this one I also struggled with. I had a couple of different options, but I ended up picking The Service Berry by Robin Wall Kimmerer for this one. It has the berries on the front, and like at first I thought it was just a kind of berry that birds eat, and so I didn't want to count it, but it's a berry that humans can eat as well, and so that's definitely a type of food. And then for December, the prompt was to read a book with a monochromatic cover, and for this one I picked The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, since it only has different shades of blue on the cover. My favorites from this one I've already mentioned, like Pet by Catherine Chidgey and We Will Be Jaguars by Nemonte Nenquimo, but I enjoyed most of the books for this challenge. There were a couple that I liked a little bit less, like We Love You Bunny and The 3 Lives of Kate Kay, but other than that I enjoyed all of the books, and yeah, plenty of 4 stars among these. So overall I completed all of the challenges except for the Classic 6 challenge, which I failed miserably, but will do better next year, hopefully. All in all, I had a really good time participating in these challenges, and I will do most of them again next year, I think. I'm not going to do the Climathon challenge like I talked about, but the other ones I will participate in next year as well. I do think I will go about it a little bit differently. I feel like this year I looked at the challenges first and then like tried to find books from wherever to fit the prompts, and so that made it so that I wasn't necessarily like reading books that I had chosen myself. It was very much influenced by the challenges, and next year I want to base my decisions off of my own TBR and like want to read lists first, and you know, prioritize those to pick for the prompts for the challenges. And then if I need to, I might, you know, supplement with additional books for the prompts specifically, but I'm not gonna stress too much about it, and I'm going to prioritize books that I want to read myself and then fit them into the challenges. I don't feel like I have stressed myself out doing these challenges. They haven't been, you know, a chore, or like I don't feel a lot of pressure to complete these challenges. I have had a good time, and like I'm just doing it for fun. But I do want to make sure that the books that I pick are books that I genuinely want to read, and not just like any random book that fits the prompts. I also think I need to relax a little bit in my choices and not plan ahead so much, because there were books that I didn't even know existed at the start of the year last year, and then they came to my attention later throughout the year and they fit the prompts perfectly. So like I don't have to stress too much if I don't have something that fits a prompt immediately. I just want to relax and have fun with it, and the books will show themselves to me as the year goes on. And then of course I have the 25 books to read in 2025 challenge list thing that I set myself. And so this isn't really a challenge, but it's still a list of books that I was trying to get through, and that I also like changed halfway through the year. So that I could actually complete it, and I still didn't. The ones that I have read are Bunny by Mona Awad, Forgotten on Sunday by Valerie Perron, Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield, My Sister the Serial Killer by Oinkan Braithwaite, The Old Woman with the Knife by Gu Byung-mo, The Book of Guilt by Catherine Chidgey, and The Garden by Nick Newman, Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk, The Man Who Lived Underground by Richard Wright, and Havoc by Christopher Bolin, Crooked Seeds by Karen Jennings, and Oil on Water by Helon Habila, We Will Be Jaguars by Nemonte Nenquimo, Women Talking by Miriam Taves, and Fundamentally by Naseba Yunus. I did also read a book from my original 25 in 2025 list, which was The Appeal by Janice Hallett. So I figure I can swap out one of the books that I didn't read from this list with that one. So that means I have read 16 out of the 25 books, and I have 9 books left to read on this list. 2 of them I don't think I will keep on my TBR. The first one is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, which I read about half of the first book in that series, and it's not for me. I'm sure it's great, but it's just I wasn't engaged. And then 2 Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. I did read One Dark Window last year, and then I wanted to finish this series, but I just haven't been like gravitating towards that story, and like I don't have any desire to pick that book up, and so I should just cross it off my list. And then I have White Cat Black Dog by Kelly Link. It's a short story collection that I am halfway through, and so I could finish this by the end of the year, but it's also not one that I am super excited to pick up, but I pick up a little story here and there, and so we'll see how I go with that one. I have 6 books left that, I could realistically maybe read one of these before the end of the year. I'm not really sure I will, but I could. And so the books that I have left are The Wall by Marlene Haushofer, The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle, The Darlings of the Asylum by Noel O'Reilly, Stoneyard Devotional by Charlotte Wood, Boy Parts by Eliza Clark, which I have out from the library, and A Short Stay in Hell by Stephen L. Peck. I'm still happy with having read 16 out of the 25 books, and it was a fun thing to try, but I'm not doing a list like this for next year. I think it worked in, 25 in 2025. It's a good and round number, but it's like half of the books that I read in an entire year, and that's just too many books for me to decide in advance, like specific titles. My mood is going to change throughout the year, and I'm going to be excited about different books, and so it was fun enough this year, but I'm not doing this again. I will, of course, also wrap up the Diversity Book Bingo challenge that I have been hosting this year. I wanted to do that in a separate video just because there are so many prompts and I want to sort of go over them all so that I can refer back to it in the coming year if anyone is curious about how to do the challenge and wants some inspiration for how to like think about the prompts and things. I will link it here somewhere when it is published. And yeah, until then, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day and I will see you in the next one. Bye. I'm very happy with having read 16 out of the 75? No. I'm still happy with 16 out of 9.